I was trapped upside down in my mangled car when I heard my mother's voice. For a split second, relief flooded through me. They had come. They had actually come to save me. But then I heard what she was actually saying, and every last shred of hope I had been clinging to shattered into nothing. Carol grabbed the wallet. I see it over there by the passenger seat. My father's voice. Not panicked, not concerned, just urgent, like he was racing against time to secure a prize before someone else could claim it. I tried to scream, but the pain in my ribs made it come out as a strangled gasp. Through my cracked windshield, I could see them, my parents, walking past my overturned car, walking right past me while I was bleeding and struggling to breathe. My mother bent down and picked up my leather wallet that had been thrown from the car during the impact. She opened it with shaking hands, pulled out the thick envelope of cash I had been hiding, the envelope that contained my entire escape fund, $15,000 in carefully saved bills. "Oh, thank God," she said, clutching it to her chest. "Summer's dress deposit is due tomorrow." That was when I heard my little sister's voice, high-pitched and delighted, coming from somewhere behind them. "Oh my God! Mum, does this mean I can get the Valentino? The real one, not the knockoff?" I was dying. I could feel it. My shoulder was dislocated, hanging at a grotesque angle. Something sharp was pressing into my side with every shallow breath I managed to take. Smoke was starting to rise from under the hood, and my family was discussing designer dresses. Before you judge me for what I did next, before you think I went too far with my revenge, I need you to understand something. If you have ever been the family scapegoat, the one who sacrificed everything while everyone else took and took and took, then please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear how this story ends, because what happened next changed everything. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here trapped in a burning car while my family robbed me instead of saving me. My name is Aurora Vance, though everyone has always called me Rory. I am 25 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I have been the invisible daughter. The one who worked 2 jobs while my younger sister Summer got everything she ever wanted. The one who paid the mortgage while my parents drove luxury cars. The one who gave up my college fund so Summer could go to an expensive private university where she majored in partying and failed most of her classes. I should have seen it coming. The signs were always there. It started when I was 16. My grandmother had left me $10,000 in her will, specifically for college. She had always been the only one in the family who truly saw me, who understood that I was drowning in a sea of demands and expectations while being given nothing in return. She had made sure the money was designated for me and me alone. But 2 weeks after the funeral, my father sat me down at the kitchen table with that look on his face, the one that said he had already made a decision and was just going through the motions of pretending I had a choice. "Rory, we need to talk about your grandmother's money," he said, his voice cold and businesslike. My father, Richard, was an accountant. Everything in his life was a transaction, a calculation, a balance sheet that had to come out in his favour. "What about it?" I asked already, feeling the familiar knot forming in my stomach. "Well, Summer has been accepted to Westbridge Academy. It is a tremendous opportunity for her. The connections she will make, they're the doors it will open. It is really a once-in-a-lifetime chance." I sat there, my hands folded in my lap, waiting for him to say what we both knew he was going to say. "The thing is, the tuition is quite steep, $15,000 a year, and with the economy the way it is, we have had some unexpected expenses. Dad, that money is for my college." "You can go to community college," he said, as if it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "You are smart. You will get scholarships. But Summer, she needs this. She is not as academically inclined as you are. She needs the prestige of a school like Westbridge to compensate for her weaker grades." My mother Carol, who had been standing in the doorway listening, chimed in. "Really, Rory, do not be selfish. This is about the family. We all have to make sacrifices. Sacrifices. That was always their favourite word. But somehow I was the only one ever asked to make them. I gave them the money. I told myself it was temporary, that I would work hard and save up, that I would get my own college fund back together. I got a job at a local diner. Then I got a second job on weekends at a retail store. I worked every hour I could while finishing high school. My guidance counsellor told me I was on track for a full scholarship to State University based on my grades and my essay. I was so proud. I had done it. I had found a way. But then Summer got kicked out of Westbridge in her junior year for failing too many classes and throwing a party that resulted in $10,000 worth of damage to the dormitory. My parents were furious, not at Summer, but at the school for being too strict. They threatened to sue. They demanded a refund. They got nothing, and suddenly they needed more money. My money. "Just until we get back on our feet," my mother promised. "We will pay you back with interest." I was 18. I had $7,500 saved. I gave it all to them. I did not go to college that year, or the next year, or the year after that. Every time I managed to save a little money, there was a crisis. Summer needed a new car after she totaled hers driving drunk. My mother needed emergency dental work that their insurance did not cover, even though I later found out she had spent that money on cosmetic veneers because she did not like the colour of her teeth. My father needed a new suit for an important meeting, and then another and another. I kept telling myself I would leave. I would move out, cut them off, start my own life. But every time I tried, the guilt would suffocate me. They would cry. They would accuse me of abandoning the family. They would remind me of every single thing they had ever done for me, which, according to them, was everything. They fed me. They clothed me. They gave me a roof over my head. I owed them. I would always owe them. By the time I was 25, I was still living at home, still working 2 jobs, still handing over most of my paycheck. I had stopped dreaming about college. I had stopped dreaming about anything except maybe one day having enough money to rent a studio apartment somewhere far away where no one could find me to him. That was when I met Clara. Actually, I had always known Clara. She was my father's older sister, but she had been estranged from the family for nearly 15 years. There had been some kind of falling out at a family gathering, something about Clara calling my father a narcissist and a leech. My parents forbade me from having any contact with her, but Clara had kept track of me through mutual acquaintances. She knew where I worked. She came into the diner one Tuesday afternoon, sat at the counter, and ordered coffee. I recognised her immediately from old photographs. She was in her late 50s, with sharp eyes and grey hair cut in a severe bob. She looked like the kind of woman who took no nonsense from anyone. "Hello, Rory," she said. "I think we should talk." I glanced nervously at my manager, who was watching from the kitchen. I could not afford to lose this job. I needed every penny. "I am working," I said quietly. "I know. I will wait. I have some things I need to tell you about your father, things you deserve to know." She stayed for 3 hours, nursing that single cup of coffee, leaving me $100 tip. When my shift ended, I sat down across from her and she told me everything. Clara had been a lawyer before she retired, a very good one. She had built a successful practice representing abuse victims. She knew all about family systems, about narcissism, about financial exploitation, and she told me in very clear terms that what my parents were doing to me was not love. It was not family obligation. It was abuse. "They are using you," she said bluntly. "They have been using you since you were old enough to work, and they will keep using you until there is nothing left of you to use." "But they are my parents," I protested weakly. "They gave me everything." "They gave you the bare minimum that the law requires them to give a child," Clara said. "Food and shelter. That is not a gift, Rory. That is their legal obligation. Everything else you have ever gotten, you have earned yourself. And everything you have earned, they have taken." I wanted to argue with her. I wanted to defend them. But sitting there in that diner booth, hearing someone finally say out loud what I had been thinking for years, something inside me cracked open. "What do I do?" I whispered. "You leave," she said simply. "You save your money in a bank account they do not know about. You get your important documents together. And when you are ready, you walk out that door and you do not look back." For 6 months, I followed Clara's advice. I opened a secret bank account at a different bank, one my parents never used. I deposited my checks there instead of the joint account my father had insisted I open when I turned 18, so he could keep track of my finances. I told my parents my hours had been cut. I started eating ramen every day and packing terrible bag lunches to account for why I suddenly did not have as much money to contribute to the household. I started hiding my nice work clothes at the diner and changing before I came home so they would not ask why I needed new things. I squirreled away every dollar I could. I worked overtime whenever it was offered. I picked up extra shifts. I sold old belongings on a Facebook marketplace. After 6 months, I had $15,000. $15,000 that my family did not know existed. It was enough. It was enough for first month's rent, last month's rent, a security deposit, and a little left over to get me started in a new city. I had been secretly applying for jobs 3 hours away in a city where my family had no connections. I had an interview scheduled at a corporate office for a junior accounting position. The pay was not amazing, but it was a start. It was a real start. I was going to do it. I was finally going to leave. That was the plan. That was supposed to be how this story went. But then came the accident. It was a Saturday morning. I was driving to my interview. I had told my parents I was going to work a double shift. I had my nice interview clothes in a bag in the passenger seat. My resume was in my briefcase and in my wallet, because I did not trust leaving it at home where my parents might find it, was that envelope, $15,000 in cash. I was going to deposit it in a bank in the new city after my interview, so I could show proof of funds when I went apartment hunting later that day. I did not see the truck. The driver said later that his brakes failed. He ran a red light and hit my car at full speed, sending me spinning across the intersection. My car rolled twice before landing upside down in a ditch. The impact was catastrophic. I remember the moment of collision. I remember the sound of metal crushing glass shattering. I remember the world turning upside down, my seatbelt cutting into my chest as the only thing keeping me from being thrown through the windshield. I remember the sharp, immediate pain in my ribs and shoulder. And then I remember the silence after broken only by the dripping sound of fluids leaking from the destroyed engine. I could not move. My left shoulder was destroyed, hanging at an angle that made my stomach turn. Every breath sent a stabbing pain through my chest. I could smell gasoline. I could see smoke beginning to curl up from somewhere under the crumpled hood. I knew I needed to get out. I knew the car could catch fire, but I could not move. I was stuck. I heard sirens in the distance. Someone must have called 911. Help was coming. I just had to stay conscious. I just had to stay calm. And then I heard my father's voice. They had been driving to the mall. My mother wanted to buy a new purse. Summer wanted to go look at dresses for some charity gala she had been invited to by a friend. They just happened to be on the same road. They just happened to see the accident. And when they realised it was my car, when they saw my licence plate, they stopped. But not to help me. I heard them before I saw them. My father's voice sharp and urgent. "Carol, check the car. See if anything valuable is salvageable." "Richard, should we call someone?" my mother asked, but her voice was distracted, not concerned. "The ambulance is already coming. I can hear it, but we need to act fast. Check for her purse, her wallet. She was acting strange this morning. I think she is hiding money from us." I tried to yell. I tried to scream for help, but all that came out was a weak, gasping croak. The smoke was getting thicker. I could feel heat starting to build. My vision was blurring at the edges. That was when I saw my mother's face appear at the broken passenger window. For a heartbeat, I thought she was going to help me. She met my eyes. I saw her register that I was conscious, that I was in pain, that I was terrified. And then she looked away. She reached past me, her hands searching the floor of the car, where my belongings had been scattered by the impact. She found my wallet. She opened it. She pulled out the envelope. "Richard," she called out, "I found it. There must be 10,000 here, maybe more." I watched my father's face appear next to hers. He looked at the money. He looked at me. And then he smiled. "Good," he said. "We can finally get that patio furniture I have been wanting, and Summer's dress deposit." "Dad," I managed to gasp out. "Dad, please help me." "Oh, stop being so dramatic, Rory," he said dismissively. "The ambulance is almost here. You will be fine. You always are. You are tough. You can handle it." That was when I heard Summer's voice. She had gotten out of their car and was standing a few feet away, her phone pressed to her ear. She was talking to someone, her voice bright and excited. "Oh my God, Brittany, you will never believe what just happened. My sister got into an accident and Mum found like $15,000 she was hiding from us. Yes, so now I can totally afford the Valentino gown, the blue one with the crystals, I know, right? I mean, I feel bad about the accident and all, but honestly, this is kind of perfect timing. The dress was going to sell out." Something inside me died in that moment. It was not the physical pain, though, that was excruciating. It was not even the fear of dying in that burning car. It was the sudden, absolute, crystalline understanding that to my family, I was not a person. I was a resource, an ATM, a convenient source of income that made no demands and asked for nothing in return. And in that moment, as smoke filled my lungs and my vision darkened, I made a promise to myself. If I survived this, if by some miracle I walked away from this wreckage, I would destroy them. I would take everything from them the way they had taken everything from me. I heard footsteps running toward the car, a man's voice, young and urgent. "Mom, sir, step away from the vehicle. The engine is on fire." "Officer, this is our daughter," my father said smoothly, his voice taking on that reasonable, concerned tone he used when he wanted to manipulate someone. "We just got here. We are so worried about her." "Then why were you going through her wallet instead of trying to get her out?" the voice demanded. I felt hands on my face. Gentle hands, not my father's. Through my blurred vision, I could make out a uniform, a police officer. Young, maybe late 20s, with kind eyes and a soot-streaked face. "I'm Officer Ben," he said, his voice calm but urgent. "I'm going to get you out of here, okay? Can you tell me your name?" "Rory," I whispered. "Aurora Vance." "Okay, Aurora. I need you to stay with me. I'm going to cut your seatbelt and pull you out. It's going to hurt. I'm sorry." I heard my father's voice behind him. "Officer, I really do not think you should move her. What if she has a spinal injury? We should wait for the paramedics." "The car is on fire," Officer Ben said flatly. "If I wait, she dies. Now step back." I heard my father sputter something, but Officer Ben ignored him. He pulled out a knife and cut through my seatbelt. The moment the tension released, I fell, and the pain was so intense I nearly blacked out. He caught me carefully, threading his arms under my body, and then he was dragging me out through the shattered window. The pain was indescribable. Every movement felt like knives in my chest, but Officer Ben kept talking to me, kept telling me I was doing great, that I was going to be okay, that help was coming. He pulled me away from the car, 20 feet, 30 feet, and then gently laid me down on the grass. That was when my car exploded. The sound was deafening, a massive boom that seemed to shake the ground. Flames shot into the sky. I turned my head and watched my car, my escape plan, everything I owned burn. Officer Ben shielded me with his body until the worst of it passed. Then he was checking me over, talking into his radio, calling for backup and medical assistance. His hands were steady and professional, but I could see the anger in his eyes. "Your family," he said quietly, so only I could hear. They took your wallet. I saw them. Before I could get to you, they were rifling through your things. They took an envelope of money and walked away. They did not try to help you. They just took your money and left. I started to cry, not from the pain, from relief. Someone had witnessed it. Someone had seen what they did. It was not in my head. It was not me being dramatic or ungrateful or any of the other things they always accused me of being. It had really happened. I saw it, Officer Ben repeated, and I'm going to document it, all of it. The paramedics arrived. They loaded me onto a stretcher. They cut off my clothes to assess my injuries. 3 broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, severe bruising, possible internal bleeding. They started an IV, they gave me something for the pain. And as they loaded me into the ambulance, I saw my family standing by their car watching. My mother had her hand over her mouth, trying to look concerned. My father had his arm around Summer, who looked bored. And clutched in my mother's other hand was my wallet, now empty. I closed my eyes as the ambulance doors shut, and I promised myself again they would pay. I woke up in the hospital 12 hours later. The doctors said I was lucky. My injuries were serious, but not life-threatening. The dislocated shoulder had been put back in place under anesthesia. My ribs would heal in 6 to 8 weeks. I would need physical therapy. I would have scars, but I would live. And sitting in a chair next to my hospital bed, reading a paperback novel and drinking coffee, was Aunt Clara. "Hello, Rory," she said when she saw my eyes open. I came as soon as Officer Ben called me. "Officer Ben," I croaked. "He is a good man. When your parents refused to tell him the name of any other family members, he checked your phone. He found my number. I had saved it in there under Aunt C, remember? He told me everything. I tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. The pain medication was wearing off. "Easy," Clara said, standing up and pressing the call button for the nurse. "You have been through a lot, but we need to talk. We need to talk right now, while you are still thinking clearly before your parents show up." "They are coming," I asked, feeling panic rise in my chest. "Oh, I am sure they will," Clara said grimly, "because they are going to try to control the narrative. They are going to try to gaslight you into thinking what happened was not what it really was, and they are going to try to get you to sign something. Sign something. Insurance papers, liability waivers, something to get money. Trust me, I know how people like your father think. But here is what we are going to do instead." She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of photos. Photos of my injuries, photos of the accident scene, and a video. A dashcam video from Officer Ben's patrol car that showed my parents approaching my burning vehicle, going through my belongings, taking my wallet, and walking away. The timestamp showed they had been at the scene for 6 minutes before Officer Ben arrived. 6 minutes where they could have tried to help me. 6 minutes where they chose money over my life. "Officer Ben gave this to me," Clara said. "Officially he should not have, but he also took my statement as a concerned family member, and I have already contacted a lawyer friend of mine who specializes in elder abuse and financial exploitation. We are going to file a police report. We are going to file for a restraining order, and we are going to make sure they never touch another penny of your money again." I stared at her. "Can we do that?" "Oh, honey," Clara said, and her smile was absolutely predatory. "We can do so much more than that. But first, I need you to be honest with me. Tell me everything, every dollar they have taken, every time they have manipulated you, every time you felt like you wanted to run. Tell me all of it." So I did. For the next hour, while we waited for the nurse to come adjust my pain medication, I told Clara everything, and she took notes. Detailed, careful notes. She asked questions. She wanted dates, amounts, bank statements. She wanted text messages, emails, any documentation I could provide. And I realized as I talked that I had been documenting it. Not on purpose, but I had been. Every time my father had texted me demanding money, every time my mother had sent me a guilt-tripping email, every time Summer had posted on social media about her new designer purchases while tagging me with crying, laughing emojis. It was all there, a years-long paper trail of exploitation. "This is good," Clara said when I finished. "This is very, very good. Now here is what we are going to do. When your parents show up, and you are going to tell them nothing, you are going to say you need rest. You are going to say the doctors told you not to have stressful conversations, and you are going to give me medical power of attorney so they cannot make decisions for you while you are in the hospital." "Medical power of attorney?" I asked. "It means if you are too injured or medicated to make decisions, I make them for you instead of them. It is a standard legal document. The hospital can process it quickly, and it means they cannot have you declared incompetent or try to commit you or any of the other creative things narcissists try to do when they realize they are losing control." I had never even considered those possibilities. But Clara had. Clara had seen it all before. "And one more thing," Clara said, pulling out a folder. "I did some checking. Do you know who actually owns the house your parents live in?" "They do," I said. "They bought it 10 years ago." "No," Clara said. "You do." I stared at her blankly. "When your grandmother died, she did not just leave you that $10,000. She left you a trust. $250,000 in a trust that matured when you turned 18. Your father was the trustee until then. When you turned 18, he was legally obligated to turn that money over to you. But he did not, did he?" I felt like I was going to be sick. "No, he never mentioned it." "Because he stole it," Clara said bluntly. "He used it to buy the house, put it in his name, and never told you. He committed fraud. He forged your signature on documents transferring the trust to him. I found the paperwork, and I found the forgery. Your signature on those documents does not match your real signature from your driver's license application. We can prove it." "So the house is mine?" I asked, my mind reeling. "The house should be yours. Whether we can get it back is a legal question. But what we can do is file a civil suit for the value of the trust plus interest plus damages. We can also file criminal charges for fraud and embezzlement. Your father could go to prison, Rory. And he should." I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. "I know this is overwhelming," Clara said gently, "but I need you to be strong. They are going to try to break you. They are going to cry and beg and promise to change. They are going to say you are destroying the family. They are going to say you are being cruel and vindictive. But what they did to you was cruel. What they did to you was criminal, and you deserve justice." That was when the door opened. My father walked in, followed by my mother and Summer. They all looked concerned. They all looked like the perfect worried family coming to check on their injured loved one. "Rory!" my mother exclaimed, rushing to my bedside. "Oh, sweetheart, we have been so worried. We tried to come earlier, but the doctors would not let us in." That was a lie. Clara had specifically told the nurses not to allow them in until I was awake and coherent. "How are you feeling?" my father asked, and his voice was dripping with false concern. "We have been beside ourselves." I looked at Clara. She gave me a small nod. "I am tired," I said flatly. "The doctor said I need rest." Of course," my father said. "We just wanted to stop by and see you, and we brought some papers for you to sign." There it was. "Papers?" I asked. "Insurance forms," he said, pulling out a folder. "Just standard stuff. We need your signature to process the claim for the car, and there is a liability waiver the hospital needs. Just formalities." I looked at the papers he was holding out. I did not need to be a lawyer to know they were not hospital forms. They were probably liability waivers to prevent me from suing them, or papers to access my insurance money, or both. "I cannot sign anything right now," I said. "The medications make me too confused. The doctor said I should not make any decisions for at least 48 hours. My father's face tightened. Rory, do not be difficult. These are time-sensitive documents. Then they can wait 48 hours, Clara said, standing up. Hello, Richard. It has been a while. My father's face went white. Clara, what are you doing here? Visiting my niece, Clara said pleasantly. She called me from the ambulance. Did not you, Rory? I had not, but I nodded anyway. I see, my father said, his jaw clenching. Well, Clara, this is a family matter. I am sure you understand that we appreciate your concern, but Rory has us to take care of her. Actually, Clara said, pulling out another folder, Rory has designated me as her medical power of attorney, so any decisions about her care go through me, and any conversations about her finances or legal matters go through me. I am also her lawyer now, so if you have documents you need her to sign, you can submit them to my office for review. The room went very, very quiet. My mother looked at my father. Summer looked at her phone. My father looked at Clara with an expression of pure hatred. You are trying to turn our daughter against us, he said quietly. No, Clara said. I am trying to protect my niece from people who let her nearly burn to death so they could steal her money. And yes, Richard, I saw the police report. I have the dashcam footage. I have statements from Officer Ben. So I suggest you leave now before I call security. My mother started crying. Big, theatrical sobs. How can you say that? We love Rory. We would never hurt her. You took $15,000 from her wallet while she was trapped in a burning car, Clara said coldly. That is not love. That is theft, and I am going to prove it. That money was for the family, my father argued. Rory knows she contributes to the household. She was probably bringing it home in an envelope hidden in her wallet while she was supposed to be at work, Clara asked. No, she was leaving you. That was her escape money, and you took it, again. Summer finally looked up from her phone. Wait, what Rory was leaving? Yes, I said, finding my voice for the first time. I was leaving. I have been planning it for months. I was going to a job interview. I was going to start a new life, and I was never going to tell any of you where I went. Summer's face crumpled. But Rory, you are my sister. How could you just leave without saying anything? How could I asked, and I felt anger rising in me, burning away the fear and guilt. How could I? Summer, you just told your friend that my accident was perfect timing because now you could buy a dress. You said that while I was dying, while I was bleeding and burning. You did not ask if I was okay. You asked if you could have my money. I was in shock, Summer protested. I did not mean it like that. Yes, you did, I said. You meant it exactly like that, because to you, I am not your sister. I am a bank account. That is all I have ever been to any of you. My mother was still crying. Rory, please, you cannot mean that. You cannot really believe that we do not love you. What should I believe? I asked. What is love to you? Mum, is it leaving me to die? Is it stealing my college fund? Is it taking every penny I have ever earned and spending it on yourselves while I eat ramen and work 80 hours a week? Is that what love looks like? We sacrificed everything for you, my mother wailed. Name one thing. I said, name one single thing you sacrificed for me, not for the family, not for yourselves, for me specifically. She opened and closed her mouth, but no sound came out. You cannot, can you? I said, because you never did. You gave me the bare minimum you were legally required to give me. Food, shelter. That is it. Everything else I earned, everything else I bought, everything else I did. And you took credit for all of it. This is Clara's influence, my father snapped. She has always been a bitter, selfish woman who tried to tear this family apart. I left this family because you tried to steal from me too, Clara said calmly. Remember, Richard, I inherited some money from our parents, and you tried to convince me to invest it in your business, a business that did not exist. You were going to take my money and disappear. I figured it out, called you out at Thanksgiving, and you banned me from all family events. I have watched from a distance for 15 years while you did the same thing to Rory that you tried to do to me. But she was a child. She could not fight back. Well, she is not a child anymore. My father looked like he wanted to lunge at Clara. His fists were clenched, his face was red, but he knew he was in a hospital surrounded by witnesses. You will regret this, he said quietly. Both of you. No, Clara said. You will. Now get out. They left. My father stormed out. My mother followed, still crying. Summer paused at the door and looked back at me. I really did not mean it the way it sounded, she said softly, about the dress. Yes, you did, I said. And that is okay, Summer. You are exactly who our parents raised you to be. But I am done being your source of income. I am done being your scapegoat. I am done. She left without another word. Clara sat back down in the chair next to my bed. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. I am sorry, Clara finally said. I know that was hard. It was necessary, I said. You were right. If I did not do it now, if I did not set boundaries now, I would have spent the rest of my life being their victim. You are not a victim anymore, Clara said. You are a survivor, and now you are going to be a fighter. Over the next 3 days in the hospital, Clara put her plan into action. She filed a police report for theft and financial exploitation. She filed a civil suit to recover the trust money. She filed for a temporary restraining order to keep my family away from me while I recovered. And she hired a forensic accountant to go through all of my bank records and all of my family's bank records to document exactly how much they had stolen from me over the years. The number was staggering. Between the trust my grandmother's college money and years of forced financial contributions, they had taken over $350,000 from me. $350,000 that should have been mine to build a life with. Officer Ben was incredibly helpful. He provided his official report. He provided the dashcam footage. He even went out of his way to interview other witnesses at the accident scene who had seen my family rummaging through my belongings. He built an airtight case. And then, on the day I was being discharged from the hospital, Clara orchestrated the final confrontation. She had told my parents that I was being released at 2 p.m. and that I needed a ride home. She knew they would come. She knew they would try one last time to manipulate me, to gaslight me, to convince me that I was making a mistake. She was counting on it. At 1:30, Clara helped me into a wheelchair. My ribs were still healing and my shoulder was still weak, but I could walk with assistance. We went down to the hospital lobby where Clara had arranged a little surprise. There was Officer Ben in full uniform. There was Clara's lawyer friend, a stern woman named Patricia Holloway, who specialised in financial crimes. There was a victims advocate from the local domestic violence organisation, and there was a process server with a stack of legal documents. Are you ready? Clara asked me. I took a deep breath. My whole body hurt. My future was uncertain, but for the first time in my entire life, I felt like I was in control. I am ready, I said. At exactly 2 o'clock, my parents and Summer walked through the hospital doors. They saw me in the wheelchair and immediately rushed over, false concern plastered on their faces. Oh, Rory, my mother gushed. Let us take you home, sweetheart. We have your room all ready for you. Actually, I said, my voice steady and clear, I am not going home with you. I am never going home with you. Clara has kindly offered to let me stay with her while I recover. My father's face darkened. Rory, stop this nonsense right now. You are coming home. No, I said, I am not. And I am here to make sure you understand exactly what is going to happen next. I nodded to Clara. She stepped forward and began handing out papers. The process server handed a set to each of my family members. Richard Carroll and Summer Vance, the process server said formally. You are being served with a civil lawsuit for financial exploitation and fraud, a temporary restraining order, and notice of a police investigation into theft and forgery. My mother's hands shook as she looked at the papers. What is this? What is happening? What is happening? I said, my voice ringing out clearly in the quiet hospital lobby, is that I am taking back my life. Those papers Clara just gave you detail every dollar you have stolen from me since I was 16 years old. It is $350,000. That is how much you have taken, how much you have stolen, how much you have demanded while giving me nothing in return. You ungrateful little, my father started to say, taking a step toward me. Officer Ben immediately moved between us. Sir, I suggest you take a step back. You are currently being investigated for multiple crimes, and I would hate to add assault to that list. My father looked at Officer Ben, then at me, then at the papers in his hands. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. That restraining order means you are not allowed to contact me, I continued. Not by phone, not by email, not through other people. If you violate it, you will be arrested. That lawsuit means I am coming for every penny you stole. The house you live in, I am going to prove you bought it with my trust money, which means it is mine, which means I can sell it. And I will. You would make your own parents homeless, my mother asked, her voice shrill. How can you be so cruel? The same way you could let me burn to death for a dress deposit, I said coldly. Officer Ben, would you mind sharing what you witnessed at the accident scene in front of all these people? Officer Ben nodded. He pulled out his official report and began reading in a formal, detached voice. He described in detail how he had arrived at the scene to find my car engulfed in flames, how he had found my parents going through my belongings instead of trying to help me, how they had taken money from my wallet and walked away, how my father had physically tried to prevent him from rescuing me by claiming I should not be moved. By the time he finished, several people in the lobby were staring at my parents with open disgust. My mother was crying again, but this time it looked real, not manipulative, actually real. That is not what happened, Summer cried. He is lying. I have dashcam footage, Officer Ben said calmly. Would you like me to play it right here, right now, so everyone can see? Summer went pale. I think we are done here, my father said, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. Come on, Carol, Summer, let us go. Wait, I said. They turned back to look at me. There is one more thing. I want you to know that I do not hate you. I do not even blame you anymore. You are who you are. You will never change. But I am not going to let who you are define who I am anymore. I am not your ATM. I am not your safety net. I am not your scapegoat. I am Aurora Vance, and I am done sacrificing myself to feed your dysfunction. My father opened his mouth, but no sound came out. There was nothing left to say. They had lost, and they knew it. They left. They walked out of that hospital with their heads down and their shoulders slumped, and as I watched them go, I felt something I had not felt in years. Relief. Clara bent down and hugged me carefully, mindful of my injuries. You did it, she whispered. You really did it. We did it, I corrected her. I could not have done this without you. Over the next 6 months, the legal battles played out. My father was charged with fraud and forgery. He pleaded guilty to avoid jail time and was sentenced to probation and community service. My mother was not charged criminally, but she was named in the civil suit. Summer was not charged or sued, but the investigation revealed that she had knowingly spent money that she knew had been stolen from me, which made her an accessory in the civil case. The judge ruled in my favour on the civil suit. The house was placed in my name. My parents were given 60 days to vacate. They appealed, arguing that it would cause them undue hardship. The appeal was denied. I sold the house for $420,000. After lawyer fees and paying back taxes, I netted $380,000. Not quite as much as they had stolen, but close. I used that money to finally go to college. At 26, I enrolled as a freshman at State University. I studied accounting like my father, but with one key difference. I used my skills to help people not exploit them. I volunteered with a non-profit that provided financial literacy education to abuse survivors. My parents tried to contact me multiple times over the years. They sent letters that I returned unopened. They showed up at my apartment, but I had cameras and documented everything, and each violation of the restraining order resulted in fines and threatened jail time. Eventually, they stopped trying. Summer reached out to me once 3 years after the confrontation. She said she had gotten therapy and realized how toxic our family dynamic had been. She said she was sorry. She asked if we could maybe get coffee and talk. I said no. Maybe that makes me cruel. Maybe that makes me unforgiving. But I have learned that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I can forgive her for being a product of our parents' dysfunction while also choosing to protect my peace and not allow her back into my life. Today, I am 30 years old. I graduated summa cum laude with my accounting degree. I work at a firm that specializes in forensic accounting and fraud investigation. I help people like me, people whose families or partners or employers have stolen from them. I help them find the proof document, the crimes, and get justice. Clara and I have dinner every Sunday. She is the family I chose, and she chose me right back. I think about that day in the hospital lobby sometimes. I think about the look on my father's face when he realized he had finally pushed me too far. I think about the satisfaction of watching him read those legal documents. I think about walking away from them and never looking back. People ask me if I regret it. They ask if I feel guilty for essentially destroying my family. They ask if I miss them. The answer is no. I do not regret it. I do not feel guilty. And I do not miss them because they were never really my family. A family does not let you burn so they can steal your money. A family does not sacrifice you to fund their luxuries. A family does not treat you like an ATM while giving you nothing but criticism and control in return. I am not the villain in this story. I am the survivor. And if my story sounds familiar to you, if you have been the family scapegoat, the one who gives and gives while everyone else takes, then I want you to know something. You deserve better. You deserve a life where you are valued, where your needs matter, where you are not just an endless resource to be exploited. You deserve to be more than a supporting character in someone else's story. And it is okay to walk away. It is okay to cut them off. It is okay to choose yourself. It is not selfish, it is survival. So here is my question for you. Have you ever been in a situation where family or friends made you feel like you existed only to serve their needs? How did you handle it? Did you walk away, or are you still trying to find the courage? Drop your story in the comments below. And if you found this story helpful, if it resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means everything, and who knows, maybe your comment will be featured in a future video about breaking free from toxic relationships. Remember, you are not alone, and you are not crazy for wanting more. You deserve to be free.